Erlin wakes up, yet again, at a strange place. His cheek mushed up against a polished and laminated wood surface, a familiar one, marred with nicks and dents from routine usage. This wasn't his bed a zip rail ride away. This was his desk. He sat himself up, the drafting paper he had unconsciously chosen as a pillow, clinging to his face as he rose. One look down revealed some drool had soaked in from his mouth. That was a problem, to be sure. He peeled the paper off his face, the ink leaving imprints on his cheek where he rested. Plans for his next greatest invention, the actuator. His pride and joy, now with a head-sized smudge and a wet spot. To say Erlin is awake is a bit of a stretch. He got up out of his chair, long molded to the shape of his behind, and no one else's. His feet had to get used to the feeling of bearing weight once more, screaming in complaint for a split second once they hit the floor, before they remembered their purpose and silenced themselves. He shuffled over to his terminal near the door. It didn't take all that much effort, as his office could easily be mistaken for a closet that had too much to eat. His foot collided with something on the floor. A failed prototype he didn't have the heart to get rid of. It overheated, and a valve burst during testing, the sharp burnt edges digging into his sandaled foot. That shook him awake for sure. He looked down at the prototype, thinking he could salvage it, but only when he had the time to, which he never had. He stretched out and resolved to continue his journey to the terminal. A red light flashed on the top right corner of the apparatus, indicating he was the recipient of a message. Greetings, Erlin Meister. Current time, 15:21. You have 2 new messages. From Schlenker. Sent 7:48.
I know you have a hard-on for your project, but you need to show your face at the meetings. You're effectively throwing out your vote for like 20 minutes of staring at your draft. You need to get out more. Let me know when you get this. I want to grab lunch sometime.
Well, it looks like that time had long passed. What Schlenk sees in Erlin, not even he knows. She might still be in her office for dinner. Picking the muck out of his eyes with his left hand, he opens the other message with his right. From Oasis. Sent 4:13.
Professor, I hope this message reaches you well. I've attached the conductivity data you needed from the test yesterday. Let me know how the next tests go. This might be it. See you in class tomorrow.
At the bottom of the message was a file of all the data taken, arranged neatly into an array of plots. It seemed iteration 3 had the most promise. Erlin sent for the data to be printed and turned his terminal off, leaving the small room in darkness once more. He felt for a doorknob and tested it, before opening it up. Before him stood an empty office, long evacuated by its occupants due to closing, its maze of cubicles easily circumnavigated through the edges. The room was only illuminated by the lights of neighboring buildings through the windows. When Erlin found his way to the exit, he dug into his pockets and fished out his identification. It had his picture on it, too, an old one to be sure. But Erlin aged quite well in a year, so he's still the spitting image of his marginally younger self. A pale, plain man with a long, flat nose, short mustache, and slight wrinkles and blemishes that the camera was nice enough to pick up. Some of his co-workers smiled for their photos, but Erlin did not. The neutral, tired expression reflected his face like a mirror. He held the card to the reader and unlocked the door. Pass accepted. L4 Erlin. Have a good evening. As soon as he stepped into the lobby, he was greeted by a familiar face, one of the security guards working the night shift.
Well, looky here. If it isn't the truant-in-chief. Your wife came here looking for you. Late shift again?
His name tag showed he was called Dewar, a dark-skinned man of slightly rotund build. Most would assume he lacked the athleticism necessary to stop a potential threat or intruder, but most would be wrong. Erlin would need to suspend his disbelief at the lengths Dewar can push his body.
Nothing I'm getting paid for. How much trouble did it seem like I'm in?
Dewar sat down on a chair behind the front desk and swiveled around idly. It most definitely was not his chair.
She just wanted to check up on you. Rules are rules, though. Couldn't let her in. She didn't seem mad or anything.
Erlen paused at the door. It slid open without him even having to touch it. He looked back at Dewar.
You sure?
Oh, no. She's pissed. Are we still on for drinks tomorrow?
Yeah. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Erlen turned and passed the threshold, exposing himself to the outdoors. Just outside was an opulent garden lit by small lamps dotting the edges of the path. The cool air was crisp against his face, a far cry from the conditioned environment he worked in. The garden was available to the public, but nobody really made the time to come here and relax. Everyone inside the building is a bit preoccupied. This building was the crown jewel of the Pallid Empire, the Varian. It was the tallest edifice in all the land, jutting out into the starry sky. It was also home to the officials of the Pallid government, as well as the Inventors Guild. It was where Erlen worked with the greatest minds of his nation. The southern exit he just took was specifically for people of his ilk. After some walking, he arrived at the ingress station. It was a large, open building with times posted all over the automatic bulletins. The centerpiece of it all was a statue of the first Empress with a sword in her left hand and a pen in her right. This was where everyone would wait for the zip rails to arrive, these boxy contraptions that would hang from a wire under tension. They locomoted along the wire to transport people to whatever station they needed. The best part was that they always arrived on time. Erlen had to weave his way through the crowds of nondescript people on their way in order to get on his zip rail bound for the Valor District. He sat himself down on one of the benches near the platform to await his transport. Along with another few people sat next to him, one caught his attention. He was an older man, had to be about 50. He carried a cane along with a stuffed backpack. He wore baggy clothes and was rather unshaven. The most striking feature was his lack of a left arm. As much as Erlen tried not to glance or stare, he felt powerless against the pull of it. Some time passed. Zip rails entered and exited the platform, and people left the benches in small groups. It was only until his zip rail was next to arrive that Erlen noticed that the last person accompanying him on that bench was that old man. Some minutes of silence followed, and an empty zip rail arrived. Erlen rose first to board it, and the old man followed, but he struggled to get up. He wobbled like old wood under compression as he made the grueling effort to board the zip rail. Erlen was sure that something was going on with his legs under those pants. Erlen and the man sat across from each other in the zip rail. The doors closed and the device started to move. Erlen recalled one of his co-workers wanting to implement speakers warning of zip rail arrivals. He mused on that memory for a bit before being cruelly snapped back into reality by the old man. Erlen never got a good look at the man's face until now, but he could definitely get the full picture. Piercing blue eye. Just one. The other was covered by an eye patch. Erlen met his gaze and held it for a moment before the tension got to be a bit too much to handle.
Hi.
Erlen broke the silence rather awkwardly, shifting in his seat.
Hi.
The man nonchalantly responded.
Is something the matter?
The man paused for a bit, looking outside the zip rail at the lit-up city contrasting the darkness of night.
It's very hard for me to articulate my thoughts when I am in the presence of someone I admire. Call me hip.
The word admire did not come out as good as Erlen would have hoped. He held his breath.
Hip. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Erlen extended his left hand to shake his out of instinct, but realized that it was Hip's missing arm. He slowly rescinded it, realizing how awkward that may be. Hip did not break eye contact.
Yes, Erlen.
He said wistfully.
Inventor of the K4 shrapnel mine, 27 repeater, and glaive propulsor, among a few other neat gadgets. In my time of service, I've grown quite familiar with your work. Did you know that by filing down the casing of a K4, you can have the shrapnel launch in one direction rather than all of them? The glaive can be used on close-range targets as well if you remove the snap powder, as they have enough kinetic force by themselves to puncture skin.
All of this would have sounded great if he had heard this from a know-it-all child, but coming from a man like Hip gave Erlen a pit in his stomach.
That's right, sir. I can't exactly say I had that in mind when designing them, but I'm glad we had people like you willing to think outside the box for our empire.
Hip's face went straight before giving a smile with rotten teeth.
Relax, I like you. It's actually why I wanted to meet. I wanted to see what kind of a man you are in person.
He leaned in to an uncomfortable closeness, an oddly sterile smell.
Things are going to change.
What?
It was all Erlen could get out of his mouth before the zip rail stopped at the Valor District. Hip shrugged in an exaggerated gesture. The doors opened.
You better get off. That's your stop.
Erlen got up and left the zip rail, looking back to see Hip waving at him with his good arm and with a smile before the doors closed. Erlen shivered and suddenly felt the intense urge to go to the bathroom.